Judge Lee, can you hear me? You're still on mute.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah. Sharon, Judge Lee, I'd like to, oh, I don't see her now. I'd like to discuss Exhibit 6 before we go on the record so that, let me see, so that
what is Exhibit 6?
It's called the homes. It's, and I was going to submit it by page number, but I wanted to point out that the...
Let me find Exhibit 6.
Okay.
I'm not seeing anything.
You don't see an Exhibit 6?
Is it petitioners or I have a couple for respondents. I have respondents 1, 2, and 3. I don't show anything for petitioners.
I sent it. I can show where they should have all my. Do you have any of my exhibits up there?
No. So were they e-filed?
Yes, I sent them through the service process.
I think you e-served me with them, Mr. Wire. I don't know that
they were all served.
Like I said, you might have sent them to Miss Robertson. I don't know if you sent them to the clerk.
No, I have. I show where I sent it to the CCL at.
Well, that's email.
Yeah, but you're. Golly, I need these. They went to the court.
Did you e-file them with the district clerk?
No, I did an e-service, Your Honor.
Okay. I don't know if you can.
They all went to Karina's.
I mean, that's her email, but that's not.
I thought I was sending them via. It's like, let me share this with you. Okay, hold on just one second. 6. Your Honor, I'm going to try to share something with you so you can see that I
don't doubt that you emailed it to somebody. I'm just saying I don't have it. And
no,
so
I got confirmation it went. That's what's throwing me right here. Can you see? Am I sharing this properly?
I don't see anything.
I
mean, I can show you, for example, Miss Robertson.
Oh shoot, Judge.
You filed these exhibits, so I have those.
There. You can see where I sent to the court reporter, CCL Austin, case contacts. Did I not send it properly?
I mean, again, that's an email.
Okay. Was I supposed to file it with the court? I mean, the clerks?
I mean, usually it gets e-filed with the clerk.
I did not realize that, Your Honor. This is the first time I've done a Zoom hearing. Can I?
So, I mean, we can see if we got it.
Karina, you should have it on ccl@austincounty.com.
Mr. Wire, you filed a bunch of exhibits. When did you do that?
I did that on 4/26 2022 starting about 9 o'clock yesterday.
You asking Maria?
So it's coming in an email, CCL, county.com from Mr. Wire about.
Yesterday.
He wanted to print them out. She said she got a lot of them yesterday.
Like how many pages do you think?
There's like 500 pages, Your Honor.
Well, no, I'm not printing out 500 pages.
I understand. I mean, I got them printed. I can bring them to you. Oh, shoot.
It's not part of the e-service that he did to the clerk's office.
Well, he didn't do it to the clerk.
It went through the, I can forward it to the clerk. Is that possible?
Well, I guess it is, but it's going to take them a while to print 500 pages.
Yeah, I mean, I can put it all online and then we can see what we're talking about and then they'll have it. I got it on a zip drive. After we get finished with court, then I can get with Karina and see what's accepted.
Don't get it to me. It needs to go through the e-file.
Yeah, you should e-file it with the clerk.
How can I solve this, Your Honor?
E-file it with the clerk?
Right now? Because it'll take forever.
So, Mr. Wire, the exhibit 6 I have is not 500 pages.
No, well, but I got all the credit cards on exhibit. I mean, I was going to, unless, I mean, I think what the issue was before with, the reason I was going to talk to you about exhibit 6, I thought you said that you did not receive that exhibit previously. But I have an email, I think it's on page 2. If you look, you can see where Greg's office sent that to you on November 9th.
I don't think you should be trying to submit an exhibit right now on the screen without it being admitted. Second of all, you haven't asked me to stipulate to any of your exhibits. If you want to ask, then we can move forward with that. I think it's for you to be showing.
I mean, okay, so per, I guess the last hearing, Judge Liddy ordered Greg Clements to provide emails, and I mean, we can. I was just going to try to save some time. I thought you had said that you had not seen some of the documents that were in this email, and I was just trying to save time. But in the bigger scheme of things, Your Honor, I got exhibits 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are the credit cards: Sears, Amazon, Chase Prime, Chase State, and Carnival, and that my client, I mean, I'm doomed in this case if I can't get these to you.
I guess first email them to the clerk, and again, see if Ms. Robertson agrees to some of them.
Okay, well, I'll start emailing them. And Ms. Robinson, we've already discussed these. I mean, you've already received them, is that correct?
Your Honor, if you want to put us in a breakout room, I'm happy to discuss Mr. Wire's exhibits.
Okay. Okay. Hold on. We'll get you, Ms. Robertson, and Mr. Wire in a breakout room.
Ms. Robertson, there's two, of course, yeah. There's two Shalonda Robertsons. I don't know which one's which.
Right. The one without the screen is for the purposes of screen sharing if I have to do that, but that's, they're both me.
Looking at my breakout room, I don't know which one's which. I'm putting them both in there.
The one with my face in it is the one I'm
on my screen. That's not on my window of looking at people's names.
Is there a number to the breakout room?
Give it to you. And do you want me to go ahead and stop Mr. Wire sharing, screen sharing?
Is that what I'm looking at now? Yeah, might as well.
Oh, he just went away.
So the two of them in the room. Okay.
You want to mute yourself?
Hey, Karina, did you call us back?
I did because I didn't know if y'all were gonna be able to get out. Or
Okay.
not. Do y'all still need to go back in? Which I
Yeah,
can't.
'cause I mean, we're working through this.
That's
I
okay.
mean, we're gonna have, this might be the fastest way for us to settle this case, let the judge settle it.
I'll
So
send you back.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Hold on.
And Tammy, when he says settle the case, we're not settling the case. We're talking about which stipulating and agreeing to amounts that were charged and things like that. Okay, so we'll be back.
Yeah, exactly.
How?
I'm gonna send you back.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. How do we go back?
I'm
It should
sending you
pop
there.
up.
Be patient.
It'll
Oh,
pop
okay. I'm sorry. I
it'll pop
thought
up.
I was supposed to do something.
Have y'all gotten anything to tell you to go to room 2?
No, ma'am.
It's coming.
Okay. Okay, we got it.
All right. Ms. Lozano, could you please, Mr. Wire was not sure how to leave the room. So if you could invite him back out, and then Ms. Caudell and I need to go into a room just very briefly.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, great. Okay.
Okay.
I believe Ms. Robinson's going to go talk to her client about some issues and then get back with me, and then we'll be ready to go. Is that okay, Your Honor?
That'll be great.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Lozano. Okay, if I'm able to go back briefly and talk with Mr. Wire, that would be good.
Ms. Lozano should be sending you both back to a breakout room.
Thank you.
Are you still waiting for him?
Yes, or waiting to be
Okay.
sent to the room.
To what?
And I know Ms. Lozano's trying to send Ms. Robertson to breakout room 1.
Okay,
You get that invitation to go?
I didn't. I'm looking for it to pop up.
Maybe try to send it again.
Well, the problem is.
See if she'll approve Brian's wrong. In addition to his, as he says, his father.
You want to try to send me again?
Yeah, we may try a different room. Are you gonna try like number 2?
I got it. I got it. Thank you.
Room 2?
Well, I mean, I'm interested in getting as much visitation as I can.
Mr. Wire, see if you can get to room 2. All right.
Coffee on my computer.
Okay. Ms. Lozano, for some reason, Mr. Wire could not, like his vocals were not working in that room.
Oh, I think it showed that you were still muted, Sharonda. I don't know. So are we
Keep-
joining?
She's
So you-
she's trying to send you to one. Hold on.
Okay.
All the three.
Okay, try 3.
Like.
And, check your mute to make sure you're not muted, because that's
I think she's gone. So go into room 3 and see what happens.
And then mute yourself.
Okay, we are ready to proceed.
Your Honor.
Give us a second and we'll be right with y'all.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Sharonda, are you there?
Yes.
So you work for Lone Star, is that correct?
Yes, Lone Star Legal Aid. Mhm.
Judge, are you able to hear us?
Okay, so I'm back.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. We're ready?
I'm ready. Whoop, one second. Lozano's waving
I
at me.
just want them to go outside if they're gonna.
Oh, okay. Maybe if you could ask them to go outside.
Your Honor, we came to an agreement, agreed in a stipulation concerning the credit cards.
Okay.
We have agreed and stipulated, and Sharonda, correct me if I say something in
Let me get to my notes here.
And before he starts, Your Honor, we're not agreeing to the division of the credit cards. We're merely agreeing to the amount of existing debt on the cards.
Okay.
that is correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
So, whenever you're ready, I'll give
Yeah.
you the.
I have things written down in 2 places. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, for the Carnival card, we agree that
Now, and before we go any further, so now, am I going to refer to this as like the Carnival card and not Gateway anymore?
that is correct, because the Gateway was a consolidation. And at the end, my client will be paying Gateway, but it's essentially, it was probably be better if we just continue to call it Cardinal, because Carnival and Slate, Prime, Amazon, Sears, because that's what we just now went through and agreed to.
Because
The agreement- the
Because
agreement-
I can tell you with all these cards and all this debt and all this stuff, my thought is that some of these bigger amounts, if there is money coming out of the sale of the house, I'll probably have the clerk just write a check to some credit card to make sure it gets done. So if that's the case, it'll be paid to Gateway, but that'll account for some of these others. But with that being
Right,
said,
you would have to determine how much of the credit card debt would be payable by each one of our clients, and then it would be paid to Gateway. That is correct.
right, okay.
Do you agree, Sharonda?
Yes.
So, okay, so go ahead. I'm looking at my sheet here and I'll make notes.
Okay, Carnival, $8,659.12.
Okay, and you're gonna call that just Carnival? Because
Yes.
earlier it was Barclays Carnival Cruise, so we're not saying that anymore?
Just for a short name, just call it Carnival.
Is there, and so do you have the last four?
Yes, $8,659.12.
Last four of the account number?
Oh,
There's more than one,
give me just 1 second.
there's several.
There's multiple, the account number apparently changed during the process, but it looks like it is 1358.
1358. Okay, and then give me the balance on that one.
Okay, the agreed community balance is $8,659.12.
Okay, got it.
Slate,
That okay, Chase Slate that ends 1027.
yes, sir.
Okay,
$4,245.83.
okay, got it.
Prime,
Okay,
1,000,
which one is that?
1808.
And you're saying that's Prime or Slate?
Prime,
Prime 1808. Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay, $1,686.30.
Okay, got it.
Amazon,
Under the-
ending 8170.
Okay, that's Amazon.
Yes,
Amazon 8170. Okay.
yes, sir. Ending balance or community property balance or the amount that we're or will litigate is $209.78.
Okay, got it.
Okay, Sears, ending in 0082,
Okay,
is $2,674.69.
okay, got it.
Okay, now the next credit card, I never did see where Greg Clements ever provided this to opposing counsel, but it's FMB Omaha, First National Bank Omaha. And this is the lawsuit, and it's $15,360.52. And this was a credit card. This was a credit
That's the
card.
one earlier, Ms. Robertson said she had never gotten any information.
That's
That's right.
correct.
Okay,
So,
but you're saying you're agreeing that's a community debt and then.
no,
No.
I
No.
don't agree with that.
I want to have my client give testimony on it, and then you'll decide whether or not it could be included in community debt.
What's the last four on that one?
Honor, it's a judgment, and it was cause number 20CV-6143, and it's in your court.
Okay. Okay, what's the next one?
Okay, we have agreed, and you'll have to determine the months, if any, would be payable to Mrs. Caudell. It's the profit or income from the Katie house, and we have agreed that it's $666.66.
Give me a amount again, 600.
$600.66. And you will have to determine the number of months, if any, that would.
Wait. I tell you, just read the numbers because is 6, then what, a 0?
Okay. Oh, 666.66.
Okay, so $666.66, and that is what?
That's the community property income from the Katie rental home.
Is that the gross or net?
That's the net.
That's the net.
Okay,
And it's been out for 42 months.
all right.
And you'll have to determine how many months how many months and the amount that Mrs. Caudell should or should not receive.
Okay,
Okay.
Should be it.
And then the Oklahoma property, we're going to do testimony on that. And then that's it. Yeah.
okay, so now looking at this amount, earlier I had a Chase card ended in 3824, but I see that the amount I had down was $209.78. So that matches what you said. The Amazon card ends in 8170, $209.78. So I'm assuming that Chase Amazon ends in 3824 doesn't exist.
That is, yes. We have not been able to find that card.
I'm gonna
Chase Amazon 3824.
okay. And then is there
Your
also
Honor, what Mr. Caudell is telling me is that the Chase card, the number changed quite a bit, but it was always Chase Amazon or Chase Prime or Chase Slate. That's the reason that we went by those short names.
all right? So then I had, and that could be just changed. I had another one that was Chase 9127, so that one doesn't exist anymore.
We have no record of that one, Your Honor.
Okay, and then Lowe's, there's nothing.
Nothing, Your Honor.
And Home Depot, there's nothing.
No.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I got all that.
Okay.
Are we ready to go with Mr. Caudell?
Yes, we are, Your Honor.
So go back on the record. And Mr. Wire can call your next witness.
Okay, Mr. Caudell, please state your name for the court.
Eric Caudell.
Okay, at the time of the marriage, you did have some credit cards, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, and prior to the honeymoon and prior to your marriage, you paid for the honeymoon, is that correct?
correct,
And you paid approximately $3,500, is that correct?
correct,
So you're looking for reimbursement of that of $1,750 in addition to the other credit cards for.
correct.
Were y'all able to hear me?
No,
Okay, I'll start over. Mr. Caudell, please state your name for the court.
Eric Caudell.
Okay, you had credit cards prior to marriage, is that correct?
Correct,
And prior to getting married to Mrs. Caudell, you paid for your trip or your honeymoon trip, is that correct?
correct, on the Carnival card.
And you paid
okay,
approximately.
cannot hear what Mr. Caudell just answered.
Okay, can you hear now? Speak.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So you put your honeymoon on your credit card, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the honeymoon was purchased prior to marriage, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you spent approximately $3,500, is that correct?
Yes,
And you're asking that the court award you $1,750 reimbursement for that in addition to the credit card charges, is that correct?
yes,
Okay, and you would like to, you own a home in Katy, is that correct?
that is.
Okay. Mrs. Caudell has claimed that you prevented her from being able to have access to money while she was married to you. Can you elaborate on that? Do you understand what she's asking or what she is saying?
I do not understand that she stated that she used a debit card while we were married.
Did she use
Wait,
credit
wait,
card?
stop. We cannot hear Mr. Caudell.
Yeah, turn yours on, please.
You should talk toward the camera, toward the computer, not toward to the side.
Can you hear me now?
They're gonna have their same-
Now there's too much feedback. Yeah, you need to go in separate rooms.
I don't understand. My phone went, Eric, step outside, okay? Yeah, please step outside. No, go out this door right here. Sorry, Your Honor. Okay, can you hear me now, Your Honor?
I can hear you fine.
Mr. Caudell, can you hear me? Unmute your iPad. Unmute your iPad.
Okay, we got it now?
Can you hear me now, Eric?
Give it a try.
I hear you.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Caudell, you own a home in Katy, Texas. It's your separate property. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Mrs. Caudell has claimed that you have deprived her of income while she was married to you. Is that, can you explain where that is coming from?
I have no idea. She had access and testified to using a debit card.
And does she also have access to your credit cards?
Yes,
Okay. And we have agreed that, okay, is there any reason why you would think that she should have, should be giving rent or income from your Katy home prior to your separation from her, which was in October 2018?
prior to the separation, no.
Okay. And then after 2018, basically you collected rent, but you also had expenses. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And y'all were both living separate lives. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And the home was rented from the time of divorce, or excuse me, separation, which was October 2018 until October 2020. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And after 2000 or after October 2020, you were not able to rent the home? Is that correct?
Well, we did some work to it, and then the February freeze came along and busted the pipe. We had to pull all the base cabinets, all the flooring, a lot of sheetrock loss.
Yeah, Mr. Caudell, you're going to have to slow down a whole lot. That
Okay.
after pipes burst, we did not understand a word you said.
Hey, the pipe, we had several pipe breaks in the attic. It flooded the house. We had significant sheetrock loss. We lost all of the base cabinets and the flooring.
Okay. So it basically, between the period of October 2018 and October 2020, that is the only time that the property has been offered or has been rented since your separation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And again, we have agreed and stipulated that the net income, the gross net the gross net income or the community property, excuse me, the rent, the gross rent, or excuse me, the net rent after revenue less expenses, you make approximately $666 a month. Is that correct?
I don't see him anymore.
Mr. Caudell, are you still there?
Yeah, he's dropped from the call. He'll have to sign back in.
Okay. I will ask a question and I'm going to turn this to you so you can answer. And I don't understand why this is happening. Come here, right here, right here. Okay. Okay, Mr. Caudell. So the house has only been available for rent between October 2018 and October 2020 since you have separated from your wife. Is that correct?
That is the period it's been rented. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Have you abused?
I didn't understand his answer.
Speak up one more time.
That is the period it has been rented.
Okay. And Mr. Caudell, have you abused your wife?
No.
Okay. Is there any reason why Mrs. Caudell feels that you have abused her that you can think of?
I cannot think of a reason.
Okay.
Could not hear his answer.
You're going to speak up. You're right here.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, I cannot think of a reason.
And Your
Okay.
Honor, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we never got an answer to Mr. Wire's question before Mr. Caudell dropped off about the gross net income for community property being stipulated.
Okay. If you could
Okay.
re-ask the question.
Okay. I just want to verify this. If it's considered community property, you have agreed that the gross and the judge will have to determine this, is that the net income per month is $666 per month for your house in Katy. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You're not saying, though, that this is community property. You're claiming, though, that it should be allocated to you as your money. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you've heard the testimony of Ms. Caudell, and is there anything that you, all you can do is just, have you struck her that you can remember?
No,
Have you denied her money that you can remember?
never.
Has she had access to credit cards?
She's had access to credit cards, bank accounts, and debit cards.
Okay. Mrs. Caudell had mentioned something about $13,000 that you took out of a bank account. What did you do with that $13,000?
I applied them to the existing debts.
Okay. And she is also saying that you have denied her the house in Oklahoma. Can you explain to the court what happened with that house?
That house, there was an existing lease in place in the house. I couldn't find a just reason to terminate an existing lease without penalty.
And that lease was with who?
It was with my son.
Okay. And your son cooperated with the real estate agent and everyone when it came time to sell. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Was he evicted from that home?
No,
Okay. Now, we have several credit cards in question. There is a Carnival credit card, a Slate, a Prime, an Amazon, a Sears, and a credit card from FMB Omaha. Is it your testimony that these charges were used in support of the marriage?
all these charges was in support of the marriage and accumulated during the marriage.
Okay. And why are all these credit cards in your name?
Because Tammy cannot obtain a credit card because of her credit score.
Okay. And there is.
Okay, if you could give his answer again, we did not understand his answer.
Speak up.
Tammy Caudell cannot obtain a credit card because of her credit score.
Okay. Can you, okay, there is a case where they got a default judgment on you, and it was from First National Bank of Omaha. What do you know about that account?
The first I known about it was checking to see if Tammy had responded to the summons when she was served for this case. And then I asked Greg about it. I did not, I knew about the card, but as far as my knowledge, it had never been used.
And have you known Mrs. Caudell to have a bad spending habit?
She likes to gamble.
Okay. And have you gambled with her?
I have not gambled. I don't gamble.
Okay. You roll the dice a little bit or
I
anything?
don't gamble in form, fashion, or way.
And do you know if Mrs. Caudell gambles?
Okay, and we didn't hear his, after I don't gamble, we didn't hear anything. So Mr. Caudell, you're just gonna have to speak slower and right into the computer.
I think it's right here on the end, and I'm gonna pull up.
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I do not gamble. I say I have not spent over $20 in the last 10 years gambling.
Okay. And has a protective order been issued against you?
No,
Has any police officer come and arrested you?
No.
Has any police officer ever come and talked to you?
At the Oklahoma house, Tammy had called the police several times. Each time they came to the property, she promised to settle down. One time, they gave her the choice of going to a mental facility or having a family member come pick her up.
Okay. And what was the dispute on that? Did they, was she trying to kick you out of the house, kick your son out of the house, or do you know?
No, somebody stole her SIM cards out of her phone.
Okay. Now, speaking of the Oklahoma home, okay, do you remember what the mortgage payments were on that home?
They was just shy of $400. So I just made it even $400 on the payment.
And did you pay the mortgage on that home starting from the date of separation?
Each and every month plus the taxes.
Okay. And your testimony is that the mortgage payment is about $400 a month?
Correct.
Okay. And how much was the property taxes?
Just over $400 a month, year.
Okay. And basically, did you have to do any repairs on that property?
A couple, 2000, I can't remember the exact date, but we had to replace the well pump.
Was it after you separated from your wife?
Yes.
Okay. And did your wife make any payments towards the expenses or the mortgage on this property?
None.
Okay. And because of this, after you separated from her, you'd like to be, if your wife is asking for rent payments for your Katy home, you would like to have 50% of your payments of the property, the payments that you made for the Oklahoma reimbursed to you until you sold the home. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So you, from October 2018 till the date of sale, you would like to be reimbursed by Mrs. Caudell for $200 a month, which is one half of $400 a month that was paid. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And Mrs. Caudell, so essentially, going back though, looking at this, neither one of y'all, there was no money to be given out because basically you were taking the mortgage payment and the rent that was coming off of that and applying it to the mortgage. Is that correct?
That is correct. The rent was structured so it paid the payment and the taxes.
Okay. When did y'all sell the property?
We closed, I believe, July of last year.
Is that July 21?
Yes.
Okay. And again, Mrs. Caudell did not help you on that property. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, y'all got a $20,000 equity loan on your Katy property. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Can you explain to me where that money went?
Some of it went to pay down existing bills, 10,600 and some change went to a down payment on the Oklahoma property.
Okay, so you would like to be reimbursed for the $10,600 for the Oklahoma property. Is that correct?
That is correct, because I'm still paying on the home equity loan.
Okay, and also you would like to have, essentially, you would like to have half of that loan, or I think it's what, $18,000 that's outstanding. Is that correct?
Just over.
Okay, you would like to have half of that reimbursed so that essentially.
Give me a second. Give me a second to fix this.
Okay. Karina, is it something on my end?
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hold on.
Okay, and do you want to read back the last thing you had?
Question, okay, so you would like to be reimbursed for the $10,000 for the Oklahoma property, is that correct?
Yes.
Can we proceed?
Yes.
Okay, so let me clarify. You have about $18,000 outstanding on the Sinlar loan. And of that, at least, you're saying at least $10,600 was used to pay down on the Oklahoma home. But then you're saying the remainder of that property or that money was used to pay community debt. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and as a result, not only what you would like to see is that the whole $18,000 be split between you two. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And if that cannot be done, at least you be reimbursed for the money that you invested in the Oklahoma home. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And going back to Mrs. Caudell, because she made some extreme claims to you, in your mind, does she have a drinking problem?
Yes.
Okay. And you know something about Mrs. Caudell's work patterns. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
And she's lost jobs due to her drinking. Is that correct?
Yes.
And she's actually lost custody of her children due to her drinking. Is that correct?
That is
Your Honor,
correct.
that is being completely irrelevant to this case.
Now, going back to your credit cards and so on, First National Bank of Omaha, who had access to that card?
That card was in a old wooden cigar box in the master bedroom.
Was it locked up?
No,
But only you and Mrs. Caudell had access to that credit card?
correct.
Okay. When did you find out about those charges?
When I checked the court records to see if Tammy had responded to being served for this court.
Okay. And then somehow they got a default judgment on you. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you have not been able to get any details like credit card bills or anything like that from Omaha. Is that correct?
I have talked to Omaha and their collection people, and I have not received anything yet.
Okay. And what was the purpose of that card?
Emergency card.
Okay. So is there a reason why someone would use, or such as Mrs. Caudell would use a credit card rather than a debit card when spending money?
The only thing I can think of is that you get billed once a month on that, and you see that your checking account pretty well on a daily basis on your balance.
So if Mrs. Caudell was using a credit card that you knew nothing about that was being used, you would not know she was using that card.
Correct.
Okay. And if she changed any addresses or anything like that on the card, you would not know about that card. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now you're claiming that the all estate insurance proceeds on the Katie home is your separate property. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And according to Allstate, they have sent you $15,462.52. Is that correct?
They sent a wire transfer. I did not receive it.
Okay. And where did they send that wire transfer to?
It went They use Bank of America to make the wire transfer. It went to a Wells Fargo bank.
Okay, but you don't have an account with Wells Fargo, is that
I-
correct?
Do not.
Okay. And do you know anyone that might have access to that account?
Tammy is the only one who would know how to log on to it.
Okay. And but she has, and you heard her testimony, she had said earlier she did not receive that money.
Yes, I heard the testimony.
Okay. And okay, so you would like to, if Tammy is going to get reimbursed for income off any of the rental properties and so on, you're asking that you would be reimbursed on the Oklahoma house property at $200 a month times 27 months would be $5,400. And that's basically covering the period of September, October 2018 until July 21. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And basically, though, you're claiming that after you made the payment for the Oklahoma property, the rent and other expenses basically ate up any profits on that home. Is that correct?
There has been no profit on that home except for the equity that was built.
Okay. And you're claiming the Katy property is your separate property. And you're asking that Mrs. Caudell pay 50% of the credit card bills. Is that correct?
That is 50% of the amount that was accumulated during the marriage, from
Okay.
marriage to separation.
And those amounts are the Carnival card, $8,659.12. You're asking her to pay 50% of that. Is that correct?
Yes,
The Slate card is $4,245.83. You're asking her to pay 50% of that. Is that correct?
yes,
The Prime card is $1,686.30, and you're asking her to pay 50% of that card. Is that correct?
yes,
The Amazon is $209.78, and you're asking her to pay 50% of that card.
yes,
The Sears card is $2,674.69. And you're asking her to pay 50% of that. Is that correct?
yes,
And the FMB Omaha, I guess, judgment of in the amount of $15,360.52. You're asking her to pay that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
50% of that. Is that correct?
yes,
Okay. And again, with the exception of FMB Omaha, all the other charges you knew or you claim have been used for the benefit of you and Mrs. Caudell. Is that correct?
that is correct.
Now, there is one instance of where you saw that Mrs. Caudell use your car in Oklahoma for gambling. Is that correct?
That is correct.
When did that gambling occur?
April of 2018.
Okay. And do you remember how much she gambled away?
In between the Carnival card that was in her name and the Slate card, it was about $2,600.
Okay. And so that's just one instance of where you saw where she's used your card or used the card, whether it's in her name or your name, and kind of had some fun. Is that right?
Yes, that was a 2-day period.
In a 2-day period, she went through $2,600.
Yes,
And you have never received any statements for FMB Omaha. Is that correct?
that is correct.
And, you know, $15,360 could be just a 5-day period. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you believe that's what she possibly might have used that money for.
there is a potential.
Okay. And as far as you're concerned, you don't really care whether she used it for her own benefit or if it was for the community benefit. You just want to be reimbursed 1/2. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you do, even though that I know opposing Mrs. Caudell disagrees with this, but you do, there is a judgment on that account against you in your name. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Ms. Robertson?
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Give me one moment. Okay, Mr. Caudell. You testified that you paid $3,500 for the honeymoon and you're seeking to be reimbursed for half of that, correct?
That was an estimate, but it's real close.
And it's your testimony that you're saying you paid for the honeymoon prior to marriage, correct?
Correct.
Okay, when did you actually take the honeymoon?
We took it the weekend after we got married,
Okay, so about when was that?
September 20, no, November, Lone Star Rally is November 4th, so it's right around 3rd, 4th, 5th, starting of November.
Okay, but you paid for that out of your own volition on your own card before marriage, right?
We planned a honeymoon, and the only way to pay for it was put it on the credit card.
Okay, so, but the question I asked was, you paid for that on your own credit card before marriage, correct?
Yes.
Your own money. Okay. And when you say she had access to your credit cards, what did you mean by that?
She carried some of them in her purse, and anytime she needed any of the Sears card, we only had one of them. She'd ask for it, and she needed to go to Sears and get something and use it.
So it's your testimony that she kept some of your credit cards with your name on them in her purse?
Yes,
Okay. And you stated that you don't believe she's entitled to any rental money from the Katie property while you were married, right?
correct.
Even though that's community property income
While we was married,
while you were married or before you were separated.
she had community benefit.
And it was her testimony that she didn't have access to those funds. Is that right?
That was her testimony, but she testified also that she had a debit card and used it.
Okay, so is it your testimony that rent from the Katie home went into the joint bank account?
It went into the joint banking account.
Mm-hmm. Is it also your testimony that any kind of expenses for the Katie rental property came out of the joint bank account?
Yes,
Okay, so there was a whole lot of intermingling there. Would you agree?
it was intermingled.
Okay. And have you presented any kind of evidence, tracing evidence to show what part of that money was separate property versus community property?
The rent from the Katie house was treated as community property.
Correct. But have you presented any kind of evidence today to show tracing of separate property income and separate property expenses that are your burden to show? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. And
Well, we had some.
you answered the question. Thank
Okay.
you. You mentioned that y'all were both living separate lives after you separated in 2018, correct?
Correct.
Now, is it your claim that you had no duty to support her after you separated?
She disappeared.
But do you believe that you, just because you were separated, you had no duty to support her? Is that what you're claiming?
Well, she was driving a car that was my property.
Right. So, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but
But I
you
mean,
have, what I'm looking for are yes and no answers to these questions.
Okay.
Is it your position that you believed you had no duty to support her after you were separated?
I had no duty.
Okay. And let's see. Just to make it very clear, both parties have stipulated that net income from the Katie rental property is $666.66 per month, correct?
Yes,
And the way that we arrived at that number is taking the rental income and subtracting bills and expenses each month for that, correct?
correct.
Okay. And one moment here. You admitted earlier to removing $13,000 out of the joint bank account right before separation. Is that correct?
It was not right before separation, it was a while after separation.
Okay. About when did you take out $13,000 from the joint account?
It was not $13,000 at the same time. It was several withdrawals to pay other bills.
Okay. And what bills did you pay with those $13,000?
I don't remember exactly what it was after almost 3 years, or 3 years plus.
Okay. So it very well could have been towards separate property debts that you paid on, right? We don't know what you paid.
That's true.
Okay. Let's see, give me one moment here. You said that you couldn't justify removing your son from the Oklahoma property to allow her to live there after the divorce. Is that right?
There was an active lease.
Right. So my question is, you mentioned earlier that you couldn't justify removing your son from the property to allow Ms. Caudell to live there after separation, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And it's your testimony today that your son was not evicted from the home and from the property in Oklahoma?
That is correct.
Okay. And let's talk about that First National Bank of Omaha lawsuit. You are the only named defendant in that lawsuit, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you were served with that lawsuit as the defendant, correct?
No, I was not.
You were never served in
I
that
was
lawsuit?
never served.
Okay. And there was a default, a no answer default judgment taken against you in this same court in that case, right?
Correct.
But you never bothered to file an answer in that case, correct?
When I found out about that case, I gave it to Greg Clements to handle.
Right. But so you never filed an answer in that case,
And
right?
apparently an answer was never filed.
Okay. And we had known about that case for quite a while, right? Because it was brought up at more than one status hearing while it was pending, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I believe at a status hearing you mentioned, so we'll talk about that here. It's your position that you never spent any funds at all on that card, correct?
On Omaha, First National Bank of Omaha?
Yes, sir.
That is correct.
And when you found out about that, did you try to report it as fraud?
No, I did not.
Okay. And you mentioned that Ms. Caudell has not filed a protective order against you. Have you ever had a protective order filed against you by anyone?
35 years ago.
Okay. Are you allowed to carry a weapon in the state of Texas, to possess a weapon, a
No.
firearm?
Nope.
Okay. And why is that?
What's that?
Why is that?
It's been that way for a long time.
Okay, so you know you're not allowed to possess a firearm, but you can't remember why.
I didn't hear you.
So you mentioned that you are not permitted to carry a firearm, to possess a firearm in the state of Texas. My question is, why not?
It stemmed from a protective order years and years ago.
Okay. And you also brought up the Oklahoma property, that you're seeking reimbursement from that, but it was your testimony that you were receiving $450 per month in rent from your son, right?
That was the rent. Most of it was done in sweat labor, clearing land, fixing things.
Okay, so he paid you $450 a month while he was living on the property, right?
Whether in labor or money, yes.
And you would pay the mortgage of $400 a month on that property while he was living there, right? And so
Okay, we didn't get an answer to Ms. Robertson's question.
We didn't hear your answer.
Oh, correct.
Okay. And yet you're saying that she owes you $200. It just feels like that would be double dipping in that situation. So how are you justifying, if you were getting $450 a month in rent and paying $400 in mortgage, and she was not getting any of the rent or paying any of the mortgage, how are you justifying getting $200 a month back from her?
She's claiming she wants half of the rent money. And if she's already getting the equity built in the house from the payments.
Okay, so is it your request to the court that this whole idea of you getting $200 a month in reimbursement from her is only if the court gives her part of the rent you were receiving on the Oklahoma property?
My testimony is, I think there was no money made on the Oklahoma property except for the equity built into it.
Okay, that sounds fair. So then why are you asking for $200 a month from her for reimbursement? If it was a wash?
Well, if she's not requesting the split in the rent, then I'm not requesting the $200 reimbursement for the payments.
All right. So in discussing and turning to the home equity line of credit that was taken out against the Katie property, that also was not making sense to me. So I wanted to get that clarified. You both have testified at the beginning of the trial that there was a $20,000 home equity line of credit taken out against your Katie property, correct? Now, you testified today that
I didn't hear the answer.
Okay, we did not hear the answer to,
He's nodding 'cause I'm not looking at him.
Correct.
now you testified that $10,600 of that went toward the down payment of the Oklahoma property, right?
That is correct.
And that the rest went where? I want to understand.
To other community debt.
Okay, and what kind of alleged community debt was all of that paid toward?
One of the things, we moved a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house from Katy, Texas to Oklahoma. And that was several $1,000s just on U-Haul rent and fuel.
Okay, did you use any of it to put toward your Katy property and repairs or any kind of maintenance there?
No, that repair was done before, that repair was done while and before me and Tammy moved into the house.
Okay, but you've testified earlier that this is a separate property debt, yet you want her to be paying you, you want full credit for the $10,600 that you allege was put toward a down payment on the property, and then also for her to pay you what amount?
Well, most of the home equity loan money went to the Oklahoma house, working on the Oklahoma house, storage for extra furniture for the moving stuff to the Oklahoma house. None of that home equity money was used to do work to the Katy house. All that money was used, involved in down payment for the Oklahoma house, moving expenses, and other bills associated with the common debt.
But you're saying that that's what you believe it was paid toward, but have you presented any sort of evidence whatsoever as to what that money went toward, whether it was the Oklahoma property or community property?
There is no detailed billing to show that.
Okay. And you mentioned that you believe Ms. Caudell has a drinking problem. Do you drink yourself?
Yes, I do.
Did y'all drink together?
We did.
Okay. And were you with her when she was allegedly gambling at all, any of those times?
The only time I was with her while she was gambling was on the cruise.
Okay. And you mentioned that the card for the Federal National Bank of Omaha was in an old wooden cigar box in the master bedroom. Have you ever located that card? Did it disappear?
I have not seen it.
So was it still in the cigar box? Did you ever check?
It's not in the cigar box now. It wasn't when I moved.
Okay. And when was it placed into the cigar box? What month and year?
Probably July, August of 2017.
Okay. And give me one moment. Okay, I think I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Let's take about a 10-minute break. So come back about 4:20.
Okay.
Hey, Karina, are you nearby? Miss Lawrence? Hello? Oh, okay. All right, barely. Can we check and see what's going on with my volume?
Are you there trying to? Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
You'll need to email me.
Okay, well, all right. I just wanted to go in the other room and talk to you, but I'll email you.
She's not here to put us in a breakout room, so.
Okay, all right. For first thing code.
Oh, it's just looking the line.
All right, so we ready to start back up?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Wire, did you say you had something you wanted to check?
I'm sorry, you broke up on me, Judge.
You say there's something you wanted to check?
Oh, yeah, what I was trying to do, can y'all hear me better? I corrected my my microphone.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. I have a few questions, follow-up questions for Mr. Caudell.
Okay, well, we'll let Ms. Robertson. Yeah, see, Ms. Robertson, did you just pass? You passed.
I have a few more questions, but I can let him ask some questions and then come back. That's fine.
Okay. Ready to go back into that? All right, so Mr. Wire, do you want to ask some more?
Yes, just a few things. Mr. Caudell, in your petition, you asked that the court designate certain separate properties. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And also, you also asked for reimbursement for certain items. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. You were reviewing Mrs. Caudell's counter petition, and she did not plead for reimbursement. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And in addition to that, she did not plead for a disproportionate share of the estate. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And And then I wanted to question you a little bit. Did your son have a lease in Oklahoma?
Yes,
Okay. Now, you said that you had no reason to evict him from that home. What did you mean by that?
but he was meeting everything that he said he was going to do, and he had a standing lease. I'd take the risk of legal action if I force him out with a standing lease.
So you had no legal reason to remove him from that home. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And essentially, let's go back to the Katie home. Your wife did not ask for reimbursement of the community estate for anything you spent on the separate property. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that's all, Your Honor. I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Robertson?
All right. Mr. Caudell, the first time that you ever brought up any kind of debt whatsoever that prompted Ms. Caudell to ask for any sort of just and right division that might include a disproportionate share was at the trial, correct?
Correct.
All right. And in fact, the first time you ever brought up this First National Bank Omaha was at a status hearing after the trial. Is that right?
I gave the information to my lawyer as soon as I became aware of it.
Okay. My question was, you brought it up for the very first time at a status hearing after the trial, right?
I can't recall for certain, but that is probably correct.
Okay. And you say that.
Stop.
I need to mute Ms. Caudell because she's got her microphone on.
So can you hear me better now?
Yeah. Ms. Caudell, can you mute your microphone, please, unless you're testifying? It just makes
We
it
do.
hard.
We just muted her.
Okay, good. All right. Mr. Caudell, you say that your son has a lease or had a lease for that property in Oklahoma, but you've never produced any sort of formal lease agreement that you're claiming you had with him, right?
I have access to it. I have not produced it.
Okay. All right. One moment. All right. We talked about, just give me one moment to look at my notes. I'm sorry. Okay. You told me earlier that a lot of expenses for the separate property Katie home came out of the joint account for both you and Ms. Caudell, right?
Correct.
And in terms of improvements for the Katie home, you did do a bathroom remodel at one point, right?
When we lived there, yes.
Okay. And you also did painting of the entire inside and outside of the home, right?
That is not correct.
Okay. You didn't paint the brick on the outside and paint on the inside as well?
Nope.
Okay. And you also replaced the shower floor and doors, right?
The shower door in the master bedroom, yes.
Okay. Do you also do side jobs for people sometimes, repair and maybe handyman work, things like that?
Very little anymore.
Okay. You put in your financial information statement that you earn approximately $6,113 per month after taxes from your primary employment and from your rental property income. Is that still accurate?
It's going to be pretty close.
Okay. Ms. Caudell's financial information statement filed at the beginning of this case showed that she was living off of unemployment since the date of separation. And you testified earlier that you have not provided her with any kind of support since the date of separation, right?
That is not correct.
Okay, so is it your testimony that you've provided her with support since the separation?
She drove a vehicle that was solely mine. I provided the insurance on that vehicle.
Okay, how long did she drive that vehicle?
Until her boyfriend stole it last year.
So at what point did she stop driving that vehicle, date wise?
It was rather, I don't remember. We got her police report from when she reported stolen. She reported her. It was,
Okay.
it was a position, it was stolen from her.
Responsive, Your Honor. I asked for a date only.
I don't know.
Objection sustained.
Okay. Mr. Caudell, how much money do you currently have in cash?
In cash, maybe 4,000, 4,500.
Okay. How much money do you currently have in any financial account?
That's it.
Okay. Do you have any retirement accounts?
I got a work-related retirement account.
Okay. How much is in that?
It's managed through the company. I do not know.
And did you accumulate money in that retirement account while you were married to Ms. Caudell?
Actually, the last 4 years has been a negative. Has been a loss on the retirement account.
Okay. Were you drawing money from that retirement account during your marriage with Ms. Caudell?
Was I drawing money from it?
Yes.
No.
Okay. How did it become negative?
The economy, stock market.
Okay. And do you have any investment accounts?
That is it, just the work-related.
All right. Do you have any CD accounts, certificates of deposit?
No.
Any other financial accounts of any other kind?
No.
All right. Has Ms. Caudell had any access to any income accounts or any portion of your income since the date of separation?
Since the date of separation? No.
Yes. Okay. Do you have any monthly expenses other than what you listed in your financial information statement that's on file with the court?
That is it.
And do you have any assets that we haven't discussed in the initial part of trial or today?
I have not acquired any other assets since the last trial.
Okay. Do you have any assets, period, at all that we haven't discussed in the initial part of trial today?
No.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Wire?
Okay, you testified earlier that your house was messed up by the cold storm that we had in February.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So was the work that you might have performed on that house while y'all were living there destroyed?
Yes.
So from that work, has value been added to the house?
The house is worth half of what it was before the freeze.
So, and it's because it's been damaged, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And has anyone asked you for the rental contract between you and your son?
Nobody has asked me for it, but I believe it presented at the eviction case.
Okay. And was that presented as far as you know?
As far as I know, it was.
Okay. And you're saying that your son was not evicted, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And as for support, you have provided a car for your wife, is that correct?
Yes.
And insurance, is that correct?
Both for the vehicle and health insurance.
And as far as you know, Mrs. Caudell she disappeared. She was, after you filed divorce, what happened to her?
She changed phone numbers. I don't know where she is living, no contact at all.
Okay, so you had no reason to think that she needed support, is that correct?
That is correct.
And in addition to that, how did you serve her with your divorce papers?
I had to drive to Oklahoma. When I found out she was taking my son to court for eviction, I drove to Oklahoma and gave the paperwork to the Potawatomi County Sheriff's Department, and they served her when she came into court.
And prior to that time, you didn't know where she was at, is that correct?
That is correct. I got a call the day before. My son called me, said, I have to be at court with Tammy tomorrow morning. So I called my last lawyer. He arranged for me to get the paperwork. I drove it to Oklahoma and we got her served.
Okay. So as far as you knew, Tammy was taking care of herself. Mrs. Caudell was taking care of herself. Is that correct?
As far as I knew, yes.
Okay. That's all. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Robertson?
All right. So the vehicle, the vehicle that you're talking about, that was, and listen to my question carefully, that vehicle was reported stolen, correct?
Correct.
And you received a insurance check for the full amount of that vehicle, right?
I received the insurance check minus what was owed on it.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
Mr.
That's all,
White?
Your
So, okay, let me ask a follow-up question. Mr. Caudell, I understand that it's agreed that the Katie House had a monthly net income of $666.66. And you made some statement about there was a community benefit from that house. What was the community benefit?
Well, when we was still living together, the monies for the rent for the Katie House was deposited into a joint account, and we both used that money.
And on the Gateway account, that current account that's has some consolidated debt in it, what's the account number for Gateway?
What number?
The Gateway account number?
I do not have that on me at this point. But that I've been paying pretty healthy payments every month for the last 2 years, paying that amount down.
Okay, and is that card solely in your name?
That is a debt consolidation card.
Okay, the question was, whose name is that?
It's solely in my name.
And where do you send those payments?
They take them automatically out of my checking account.
And where are they sent to?
The Debt Pay Gateway. It's a debt consolidation company.
Okay, and I want to know the address where that payments are sent.
Your Honor, can we supplement this information to you? Like tomorrow or whatever? I mean, he can go home and get it. I think he had an attorney to set this up so we can find out exactly.
Okay, so I want to get the address where those payments go and the account number.
Okay.
Your Honor, they're electronically transferred, but we can get a name and address for you.
That's what I want.
Okay.
And then I know you talked about these different credit card amounts that was agreed to. Is the Cenlar balance, is that also agreed to?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so then Mr. Robertson, I'm sorry, Mr. Caudell, what do you claim is the balance to Cenlar?
The balance of Cenlar is, give me just a moment.
We've never been provided with any Cenlar documents.
18,685.55 cents.
Okay, and Ms. Robertson, you said that's never been produced to you?
Correct, Your Honor. I mean, he sent over a 2-page document yesterday trying to show that, but nothing during discovery.
Okay.
Your Honor, let's see.
Okay, just wait a minute.
Okay.
And
Okay. I see.
Mr. Caudell, you're saying claim from Allstate of $15,462.52. You've never received that?
That is correct.
And have you asked Allstate to trace other than that it went into a Wells Fargo account?
They have been working on it for several months, and they finally told me last month the Bank of America, which done the wire transfer, would not give them no further information on what account it went into.
Okay, now I thought there was some testimony that went into some account in Wells Fargo.
It went into a Wells Fargo account. I've got the routing number and the last four of the account number.
And has there been any type of investigation with Wells Fargo to see who owns that account?
Allstate has been in communication with them, and they said with just the last four, it could be hundreds of people. They said the information would have to come from Bank of America. Bank of America has declined to divulge the information.
Okay, and have you or your attorney that you know of ever sent any discovery or lawsuits or anything to Bank of America?
No.
And tell me once again now how I got Allstate and I have Wells Fargo. How's Bank America connected with us again?
Bank of America is Allstate's bank.
Okay. All right, so Allstate through Bank of America sent a check to Wells Fargo for over $15,000, and nobody yet has been able to figure out who got that money?
That is correct.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Caudell?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so Mr. Wire, do you have any other witnesses?
That's all, Your Honor.
And Ms. Robertson?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so Mr. Wire, do you want to give a closing?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, you've heard the testimony and so on. Essentially, Mr. Caudell wants a just right division of Oklahoma proceeds. He's asking that he be given credit for at least $8,000 be deducted from the Oklahoma proceeds and given to him for the money that was invested into the Oklahoma property. He believes the number should be $10,500, but if it's up to the court to decide what should be deducted from the proceeds and given to Mr. Caudell. He would also like the remainder of that Sinlar loan, which is where the money from the Oklahoma property came from. Was originally a $20,000 loan. Now it's $18,000. He would just as well like to see that whole $18,000 divided by two and given to both, essentially applied to both parties, $9,000 apiece essentially. And the Sinlar loan was the Katy equity loan. He would like to be reimbursed for $1,750 from Mrs. Caudell for the honeymoon. He would like to be reimbursed for the credit cards in the amount of, the credit cards be split in half, which would essentially be 50% of the Carnival card, 50% of the Slate card, 50% of the Prime card, 50% of the Amazon card, 50% of the Sears card, and 50% of the First National Bank Omaha card. And so that would equate to $16,418.12 being applied to Mr. Caudell and also being applied to Mrs. Caudell. Mr. Caudell, and I believe it's already been agreed and stipulated that the insurance claim on the Katy property, which has not been received by Mr. Caudell, and also that the Katy property itself be deemed separate property of Mr. Caudell. And he asked for the Oklahoma home. Essentially, he is saying that he believes that there was no money made from the Oklahoma home, and as a result, he believes that Mrs. Caudell should not receive any reimbursement of income from the Oklahoma home. And in addition to that, if she does, he should be reimbursed $200 a month for 27 months for making the payments. But essentially, he is saying that, hey, if there's no reimbursement or if Mrs. Caudell does not receive any of the rent money and all the money is being applied to the loan, essentially for the Oklahoma property, there should be that should be a wash. Each party should just walk away with their proceeds from that sale. Concerning the home in Katy, Mr. Caudell certainly believes that Mrs. Caudell had access to money from the Katy home up until the date of separation. So he argues that Mrs. Caudell should not receive any of the net profits or revenues from that home up until separation. And then after separations, Mr. Caudell believes that it was his separate property. He moved on. Mrs. Caudell could have been gainfully employed if she wanted to. She might have had some issues. We don't know. Maybe she couldn't hold down a job, but at that point she had left Mr. Caudell and moved on, and Mr. Caudell had moved on. And in addition to that, this property, it was only rented between October 2018 through October 2020. But with that in mind, Mr. Caudell is asking again that the credit cards of $32,836.24 be divided evenly between the parties. That Mr. Caudell be given $1,750 for reimbursement of honeymoon, and as for the proceeds of the house, is that it looks like the property sold for the net proceeds was $76,311.28. He's asking that the court deduct $10,500 of that to be reimbursed to Mr. Caudell, and then each party be given each party be given $32,905.64 as the beginning of their part of their money. So we asked the court not to give, since it was not pled, not to give the opposing party reimbursement because she did not plead that. In addition to that, we asked that the court not give the opposing party disproportionate share of the estate because she did not plead that. Whereas Mr. Caudell did plead for reimbursement. That's all, Your Honor.
Okay, and the only thing I want to clarify, you said that the Katy house was rented for 12 months. Earlier, there was some agreement, and I just want to clarify it, that there was a
24 months after they separated. It was rented for 24 months, October 2018 until October 2020.
We did agree, Honor, that the house has been rented out for 42 months total during the marriage.
and that's what I'm.
Oh, okay. Well,
wait a second. Just wait a minute. Those are the two numbers that I'm trying to get straight here. It says rented for 24 months, and then I had another number here, the 42 months. So
that was from 2017 during the married period up until my client looks at it from the standpoint is that while they were married, she had benefit of the rental property. And then after they separated, he claims that the rent is his sole property.
Okay, so it was rented for 24 months.
after they separated.
right? And then that was, so is the 42 months, is that the total length of the marriage?
Rented during the marriage, yes, Your Honor. Is that correct, Sharonda? You agree?
Is, so 42 months is the total, but you're saying the 24 months of that was after they separated?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so for 18 months, it was rented while they were together?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so Ms. Robertson, have your closing?
Thank you, Your Honor. As we've come to know over this very long case, there was a lot of unfair surprise and unfair announcements of all of this debt at the trial, which has caused us to really prolong all of this. There's been no evidence produced here today whatsoever, no exhibits, nothing to show. We've stipulated to balances, certain balances, but there's no proof of what was coming in, what was going out. There's been a whole lot of intermingling of funds, both from his separate property and the community property. It's very ironic that he's asking for reimbursement when there has been not a scintilla of evidence to show any kind of tracing for that. And we believe that Ms. Caudell should be awarded half of the rent from the Katie home while they were married. The only way we can calculate that at this point is by taking what the parties agreed to being the net monthly income and multiplying that by the months that it was being rented. And that would be $14,000 to her. We stipulate to the amount of the cards, again, the balances, but not that they're community property unnecessarily. And so we would ask that if the court determines that they are community property, that we be granted a disproportionately less share of the debt on those cards based on his fault in the breakup of the marriage, the nature of the charges, since there were so many charges and their testimony about charges on those cards being used toward his separate property rental home and the property in Oklahoma, and as well as the unfair surprise that all of this was brought up at trial and that Ms. Caudell wasn't even aware that all of these charges were being racked up. Mr. Caudell clearly has a spending problem, and she testified that she used her debit card, cash, and checks, and that he was the one spending all of this money on these credit cards. She asked that she be given half of the rent from the Oklahoma property. She was not able to live there. We haven't seen an official lease. She's testified to being chased off of the property, living in her car. Half of that rent would have been $6,335. She also would ask that from the net proceeds of the sale of that property, which is the money that's currently in the registry of the court, that she be granted a disproportionately large share of those proceeds for the same reason, fault in the breakup of the marriage, nature of what's happened, and the unfair surprise of all of the debt, as well as the lack of support, which Mr. Caudell had a duty under the Texas Family Code to provide her for as long as they were married. And it was pretty foreseeable that she was needing assistance when she left him, she was unemployed and living in her car. And we have had no documentation whatsoever of this home equity line of credit that has been testified to. We know that it was taken out using his separate property as collateral. So to saddle Ms. Caudell with this debt would be unfair and mischaracterizing that property. We also would say that she should not be responsible for any of this debt associated with the lawsuit on the First National Bank of Omaha card. Mr. Caudell testified that he did not file an answer in the suit as the sole defendant. He didn't even bother to look into any kind of fraudulent charges or make any reports. He didn't fight it at all. And he knew about the case, brought it up at a status hearing. That was the first time we heard about it, but he had an attorney and everything, and nothing was ever done. He just allowed a default judgment to be taken against him. So we would ask that money be taken out of his portion of the proceeds from the sale of the Oklahoma property. Ms. Caudell was not a party in that suit at all. She had no ability to even investigate it herself when she found out about it. They wouldn't have given her any information, so she had no control over whether he would get a default debt against him in that. So she asks that he be awarded that judgment in its entirety, and that it come out of his proceeds of the sale of the property first, since they more than likely are a priority creditor. She does not want them coming after her portion. Same with the honeymoon. She does not believe that she should have to reimburse him for any of that. That was money that Mr. Caudell, out of his own volition, put on his card. You could classify that as a gift almost, or there's not very many divorces where you go back and start, asking for money that someone spent on a vacation that was, paid for before the two of you were married. It doesn't make sense. He alleged that she had a gambling and drinking problem, but he's shown no evidence of that or any kind of witnesses or records, bank records that showed that the money was spent on gambling or drinking. He admitted to drinking with her and even gambling with her at one point. He admitted to taking out $13,000 from the account and leaving her completely penniless. However, there's no proof of where that money went. Also no proof, like I said, of where the home equity line of credit money went. She testified that she was in 2 women's shelters, and she testified very specifically to timelines of abuse and incidents of abuse. And a lot of the debt in the credit cards, for that, the parties testified that it was used, like I said, to fix up the rental home, charges for home improvement and fees. So we feel like that supports a finding of a disproportionate division of the debt. And she claims that he did not support her at all. Again, the family code does state that he has a duty to support her while he's married to her. And he was making quite a bit of money and living just fine with control over 3 different properties, whereas she was living in her car. So we ask that that the court consider everything when they're dividing all of the property in a just and right manner. Thank you.
Any rebuttal, Mr. Wire? Don't repeat it, just if you want to rebut anything.
No, Your Honor, I'll pass.
All right, so then, Mr. Wire, you represent petitioner. So I'll have you prepare the decree, unless I know Ms. Robertson had prepared one previously. So I don't know. Typically I'd have petitioner do it, and Ms. Robertson, unless you think yours is close enough that we just plug in numbers and you want to use that. So I give you the first right of refusal, Ms. Robertson.
I will have to refuse that, Your Honor. I'm almost always the petitioner.
Okay, so then, Mr. Wire, I'll have you prepare the decree. And so when are you going to be able to get me that gateway information?
Probably by Monday.
All right, so,
Monday, Your Honor.
okay, so you get me that gateway information by Monday.
Okay.
And then I will get the rendition to both of you. Mr. Wire, I'll have you prepare the decree, and I'll have an entry date in that order. And I can tell you again, my thinking is that part of this order will be that the clerk will send, amount of money to Mr. Caudell, amount of money to Miss Caudell, and an amount of money that'll go strictly to Gateway. Because there is a lot of spending going on in this case. We want to make sure that these are taken care of. And so my idea is going to be that there'll be an entry date to sign the decree. That'll be signed. The money won't be released until 30 days after the decree is signed. If there's no appeal, then the clerk will send it out. If there's an appeal, then it'll be held in the clerk's registry until the case is finalized. All right, any other questions?
Yes, Your Honor, as long as all parties sign the entry, sign the decree, are we okay for not appearing at the entry?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all. Thank you. Ron.
Thank you, and you're all excused.
Your Honor.
Take care.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.